Hello there and welcome to the Star Wars Showcase YouTube channel. This time around we are continuing our 10-year retrospective of the Black Series by taking a look at the Galaxy Collection, or the most recent packaging update to the line that really brings us to the present day of the Black Series. As a quick call out before we get started, I have done some separate videos covering the red, orange, and blue lines of the Black Series, so if you haven't already, make sure to check those out. Alright, introductions aside, let's talk the Galaxy Collection. So this was a new take on our Black Series packaging that was released in 2020. And while when viewed from the front, the packaging is relatively similar, the one unique aspect that the Galaxy Collection brings is if you turn things on the side, you get these neat murals of the individual characters in kind of an action pose with some cool elements in the background. Each figure also features a unique color scheme to go along with them that fits the film or the property where they come from. So, for instance, all of the Return of the Jedi figures have this nice green, and all of the Mandalorian figures are kind of defined by this orange. And so when you have your figures together in all of their boxes, they kind of have this nice cohesive feel to them. And more than just that uniformity in terms of color, you'll actually get a larger mural as each figure is put together. So you might have, a little bit of Han Solo's shoulder that's leaking into, the Leia picture, and some of those unique elements in the background, different ships or clouds or whatever. It all creates one larger kind of rectangular mural that, when lined up together on a shelf, looks really, really good. And while I know many were sad to see the art that was featured on our red line boxes go away, in my opinion, this is a big improvement to get kind of this unique artistic element added to the packaging, which was something that was for the most part absent in our orange, blue, and red line boxes. So I've got a couple of examples of this popping up on the screen now. You can see, and these are coming from Action Figure 411. Definitely recommend checking them out for a big, database collection of all the Black Series releases. But you can see here, here's all the Mando figures lined up, and here's all of the GameStop exclusive gaming greats lined up. If you're the kind of person who does hold on to your figures inside the boxes, or just hold on to the boxes as a whole, this is kind of a nice, unique element that I think the Galaxy Collection brings in. And here's a picture I was actually just able to find on Google Images. I just typed in, Black Series Galaxy Collection shelf. And I think this was an eBay sale. But when you see all of the figures lined up with all these different colors and grouped together, I'm a big fan of this kind of aesthetic here. So in terms of the packaging and the update from just the single red line color, I think this is a huge improvement. So switching gears here and packaging aside, our modern day figures that are being released in the Galaxy Collection represent, the latest technology that Hasbro and these toy companies have to offer. So all of these releases are getting really great articulation. They're getting that photoreal printing technology to get those really great head sculpts. We're seeing a lot of improvements when it comes to things like, lightsabers are a little bit thicker and better put together. I know things aren't always perfect, and sometimes for those figures that are re-releases or that are, a slight retool of older elements, we're still going to see some of those older weaknesses. But by and large, for our mainline releases, we're seeing really solid figures just in terms of their overall quality. And I think that there is a good segue for us to get into our good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to the Galaxy Collection and our Black Series releases really from 2020 all the way to the present day. So, starting off with the good, like I was just talking through, when it comes to our articulation, when it comes to our design, when it comes to our quality, I think this is the best the Black Series has ever been. I know there are lots of things that you can nitpick. You can talk, the accuracy to, different specific elements. You can talk, articulation on key specific figures. But I think for the most part, if we really take an objective look at this, the line has never been better in terms of this overall quality for individual figures. And that's a nice transition into, I think, another one of the strengths of the Galaxy Collection is that although it might not feel like it, the Black Series has never had more releases than during this era. Popping up on the screen now, we've got a nice little graph from, and I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation here, it's Mafitsu. I'll have a link in the description here. But they have tracked all of the releases for the Black Series year over year. And as you can see here, for the last 3 years, we're really getting a ton of new releases. And that's even if you consider the fact that, 2020, 2021, 2022, these are pandemic years where everything is getting slowed down from, global shipping crisis, from a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace, from just difficulty in both economic as well as, as simple as getting out to the store sort of circumstances. But even with all those considerations, we're getting a ton of new figures there. And for those who are, looking for just one or two things, their favorite thing to collect, there's always going to be some options and some different things that you're able to select from there. And for those who would like collecting more or have, bigger subsets, that just means more things for you to be looking out for. However, and this leads us to the other side of the coin, the bad of the Galaxy collection, is we have really seen the rise of individual retailer exclusives in the past couple of years that have made, collecting a little bit more difficult here. We're seeing more and more instances where there are, highly desired figures who are only going to be available at, say, Walmart or Target or Walgreens or one individual, big box store where it's going to be hard to find them. I think we saw that personified actually just within the last couple of weeks as Walmart released an exclusive ARC Trooper Jesse, that was the one, where it was only available as part of Walmart's Collector Con, online experience. And so at 7 a.m., you were able to log in. That's when the new figure would be released and you could place a pre-order. And it was just a mess trying to get a hold of this figure. I think by virtue of it being kind of an ARC Trooper clone, it's desired. A lot of people want that. They're fans of Season 7 of the Clone Wars. But, I mean, with Walmart's site, crashing at times, with the figure selling out and then getting added back in stock, with it seeming like, depending on where your shipping address was located, sometimes it was available for you and in other times it wasn't. It was a huge pain in the butt just to try to get a hold of this one figure. And I myself jumped on right at 7. I walked the dog in the morning and then I was like, okay, let me jump on for 5 minutes before work here and I'll try to get this figure. Didn't work for me. Was struggling for it. And eventually I said, I got to get on with my day. There's stuff I need to do. It's almost 7:30 and I haven't been able to check out with this. And thankfully things came back in stock a couple of hours later. I was able to get an order placed. But that little experience there just kind of personifies the larger experience of when these highly sought after retailer exclusives are only available at one location, and when the location has pre-order problems, when there isn't stock to be found in store, it just makes it really hard to get the figures that everyone wants. And on top of that, the second point I wanted to go through here is our price point. Traditionally, the Black Series figures were $19.99, and this held true for the first several years of the line, that no matter which store you went to, that was the price point that you were paying for a pretty solid 6-inch action figure. And as quality continued to improve, I think it was a great bang for your buck when you were considering some of the alternatives, where you might have different, McFarlane figures that would be at the same price point. But for the most part, these Hasbro figures just had a better feel to them. The quality was a little bit better. The plastic wasn't quite as brittle. They were less, likely to break or to experience wear in those first couple of months of having them out. And to be honest, that $20 price point is just what everyone was used to. And unfortunately, in line with a lot of economic inflation that we were seeing on all kinds of other goods, the Black Series received a $5 price increase. So now your average mainline release figure is going for $25. And I think there's an argument that you can make to say, well, the quality did improve, and it's unrealistic to think that with all the improvements the line has seen since its genesis, that there wouldn't be some increases in production costs over time. I do think those are all legitimate arguments, but it doesn't make it easier to keep shelling out more and more money for each figure. Especially if you've been a long-term collector. I mean, that's a 25% price increase to your good. And it starts to hurt even more when these retailer exclusives that I just mentioned are getting an additional price increase on top of that. And so, for instance, that ARC Trooper Jesse is going for $27, $28 because your retailer exclusives kind of get a $3 bump added to them. And I know for many collectors, myself included, this has caused me to be a lot more selective with the purchases that I'm making, where I myself used to say, well, if there's a Black Series figure that even kind of looks cool, I'm definitely going to add it to my collection. And these days, just because of those price increases, because everything is costing a little bit more, I'm definitely getting a little bit more selective and saying, does this particular figure, resonate with my existing collection? Is this a character that I particularly enjoyed in that TV show or movie? Or that I could feel myself, either reviewing through this YouTube channel or taking photography of for my Instagram page. I'm definitely asking a lot more questions of myself before each purchase, where I used to just kind of say, well, there's a new wave coming out. Let me just order, all 8 of those together. So those are all points that I think are shared upon in the collectors community, that you're seeing more and more people start to have these debates, both with each other and internally before making purchases. So I definitely think it's something to be addressed if we're talking about, the current landscape of Black Series collecting. Now, the last point I want to talk about, kind of the ugly aspect of our Galaxy line, is, I think, a little bit of a nitpicky point. But as we get this great new mural art, and as each movie and as each new show kind of gets its own color scheme, it actually becomes a little bit more clear and apparent which properties, or which media, rather, have not gotten as much representation in the line. So if you double back on that Action Figure 411 database that I shared a little bit earlier in the video, you'll see for things like The Mandalorian, for things like the Clone Wars, we see a ton of new figures there. And we've talked about this a little bit in the Redline video, that as they've got these new shows and these new things coming out, they're definitely getting more merchandise associated with that, and that's definitely great. If Mando's on the screen and he's killing it with Baby Yoda and everyone loves him, then obviously you want to get more Mando and Baby Yoda figures out there. But at the same time, we're starting to see for movies like, I think most of your prequels, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, even for some of your sequel movies, for Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker, they have not gotten a lot of representation in the last 3 years. And so when you go into the database here and you take a look at all the figures there's, 1, 2, 3, 4 figures for that line. Well, other, sublines have 7, 8, 9, 10 plus figures here. And so it's getting more apparent where we're getting these great figures. They have all of this awesome articulation. But then all of a sudden we can look back and say, well, wow, there isn't a, Darth Sidious or Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. There's no Padme in the dozen super cool outfits that she wears. There's, no Rise of Skywalker Finn or Poe in this line. And I think this is just Hasbro getting selective and recognizing, hey, we make money with these figures, so we're just going to keep hammering these hard. But at the same time, as a longtime collector and as a fan of all these different characters and all these different movies, I'd love to see some of those holes get filled with some new releases, and would definitely love to see figures that we have not had in the entire 10 years of the Black Series get addressed and become part of these great kind of mural collections. So that is a breakdown of the Galaxy collection for the Black Series, and really kind of the landscape of Black Series collecting as a whole right now. So let me know your thoughts on this. Do you feel like when it comes to the good, the bad, and the ugly that, I had these points down? Do you have other ideas or suggestions, tweaks there? I'd love to see what other people are thinking about in terms of these modern releases here. So let me know down in the comments below if you're on the same page or if you're thinking differently. With that, thank you all for listening through to these videos. I love making these. I love being part of this community. It's a lot of fun for me, and I hope at the same time that you're enjoying this content as well. So please keep your eyes out for more. We have all kinds of custom showcase releases, some new 60-second reviews of new figures, and I'll also have a couple more videos as part of this 10-year look back series. There's a few more things to talk about: plastic-free packaging, our deluxe releases, and perhaps what lies ahead for the line as well. So please stay tuned. Subscribe if you're interested in seeing more. And until next time, may the Force be with you.